My girlfriend became enraged with me because I slept with her first, despite her insistence that we had an open relationship. I perused it. My 24-year-old girlfriend and I have gone through a really difficult period lately, and it has culminated in the last few days. After 3 years of dating, everything was generally going well. We got along well and didn't quarrel very often. Even when we did, we would frequently both calm down and resolve the issue quickly after. But my girlfriend asked me, around 2 weeks ago, whether I wanted to start dating again. I was stunned right away, and at first I assumed she was kidding. She told me that, although she truly loves me and wants to spend her life with me, she needs more experience before they become more committed. She had dated 2 other people, but she was my first love. I informed her that I didn't feel comfortable with the notion and shot it down. She badgered me about it for a while, but finally gave in when she saw that I wasn't going to back down, and that appeared to be the end of it. But a few days later, she approached me once more and asked pointed questions, hinting that if we can't just try opening up for a few months, we might have to take a break. I gave in and agreed we could resume our relationship, as all she really needed was for us to take a break or for me to just give her this. When I went home from work last Friday, 2 days later, I noticed she was dressed up, so I inquired why. She mentioned that she wouldn't be returning till tomorrow as she was heading out to the bar with her pals. She stated she truly wanted to do this, so I offered if she would rather spend the night in with me after realizing what this meant right away. She eventually went, leaving me to sit by myself and become wasted while watching TV. When I started to feel depressed, I contacted 23 female, one of my best friends, and explained the circumstances. I was feeling awful being alone, so after we chatted for a while, I asked her if she wanted to come over and drink. We spent some time together drinking after she arrived and spoke about the open relationship and how unhappy I was. My buddy advised me to take advantage of the benefits of an open relationship because my partner was basically cheating on me. I won't go into specifics because I'm sure you could see what occurred there, but it really helped me feel much better. The next morning, when I wake up, my girlfriend is freaking out and wants to know why in the world my buddy and I were sharing a bed. She became irate when I told her what had happened. She informed me that she crashed at her friend's place last night after doing absolutely nothing. Now that I've cheated on her, she wants to reopen our relationship and demand that I show that I am her faithful. I don't really understand how I did anything wrong because we never talked about regulations or anything like that. So, am I the fool for going along with my girlfriend's recommended open relationship? Some pertinent remarks. Not the fool. She didn't set any boundaries, she didn't respect your sentiments, and she forced you to agree to something you didn't want. You did nothing wrong, you are open. And you had no rules about telling each other anything. Because you had no rules at all. In the future, though, don't agree to something you don't want. Breaking up when she wouldn't stop pressuring you is the right move and would have saved you some of the coming mess. This relationship isn't equal. Just break it off. She had big expectations of her ability to pull men and wanted to get it out of her system. You didn't have to even try. So she's angry. Not the idiot, but don't pretend this is salvageable. I don't have an issue with open relationships. But this isn't how they form and work. Yeah, I'm accepting the fact that there's no coming back from this. She wanted an open relationship so she could go out clubbing shopping for an upgrade but keep you around as a backup plan. She expected you to stay home alone depressed while she hooked up with other guys, and you shattered her expectations of how this whole thing was going to play out by just calling up a friend and getting a hookup right out of the gate. Foolishness on her part. Girls have it much easier, but it's not that hard for a guy to get laid. Of course, the second you use the opportunity provided by the open relationship, she shut it down. Instantly. This was not part of her plan. I don't think you really did anything wrong since an open relationship should be both ways. The only thing I'd criticize you on is sleeping with your friend at your place. Her place or a hotel would have been better. This relationship is toast, but you will make her think twice about asking for an open relationship in any of her future relationships. Whether or not that's bad for her future partners is a question. Will she just resort to cheating in secret or break up next time she wants a change in her relationship? This is the correct answer. When she said she wanted to open the relationship, what she really meant was she wanted to F other guys, or was already effing other guys and wanted Op to stay home as her plan B. Now that she realizes Op has options and could easily move on and not be there as her plan B, she wants to close the relationship, which basically means Op stays at home jerking off while she's out effing Chad Thundercock behind his back. Hopefully Op understands the relationship is over. It was over the minute she asked to open the relationship and doesn't go back to her. Also, hopefully Op realizes she's full of crap when she said she just crashed at her friend's house and didn't do anything last night. That was just an attempt to emotionally manipulate him. Rest assured she was happily riding the pink porpoise on whatever guy she was already doing, or wanted to do, that night, and Op would be deluding himself if he thinks otherwise. Reddit, it's been a while and a lot has happened since I last posted. A ton of people were inquiring about how the whole situation played out and asking me for an update. It's been an incredibly hectic month for me, but things have started to settle down and I'm ready to update. So for starters, my girlfriend and I ended up officially breaking up a few days after my initial post. It was not a pretty scene. She kept calling me a cheater and telling me what a piece of crap I was for cheating on her. I took this for a few days while I tried to figure out what to do, but eventually I snapped back at her one day. I should have tried to keep my cool, but I told her, she is genuinely the stupidest person I've ever met in my life for thinking an open relationship would work out, and it's her fault everything blew up. I told her I played by her rules and it's not my fault I found someone to hook up with faster than she could. She told me she didn't want to cheat on me, she wanted to explore, and I should have understood. We went in circles arguing for a bit, but I eventually told her to get out of my apartment. I pay rent, and my name is on the lease, and I had to threaten to call the cops before she realized I was serious. She of course then broke down crying, saying she had nowhere to go and told me she loved me and wanted to make things work. I held firm and told her to leave. After she was out, I immediately felt better, realized that relationship was terrible for me. The next day I called up my friend, who I slept with in the original post, and asked if she wanted to come over and drink and game. She said yes, and of course, given what happened last time, we ended up hooking up again. My ex ended up coming by the next day to pick up the rest of her stuff, and boy, let me tell you, she was not happy to see my friend. She didn't start anything, but I could tell by the way she was acting she was seething. My friend and I ended up talking more and more after that, until I eventually officially asked her out and she said yes. We have been together for the past month, and to say this is a healthier, better relationship would be an understatement. I have been friends with her for a long time, and I think we've both always sort of had a thing for each other, but never really acted on it until we were basically handed that perfect opportunity by my ex. We have a lot more in common and we are a lot better at communicating with each other, and so far this whole relationship has been amazing. Thank you all for the advice on the previous post, I really appreciate it. TLDR. Ended up in a significantly healthier relationship after breaking up with my toxic ex. Some comments. She wanted to go out and hook up with other men as you sat at home pining for her and wondering why you were inadequate. She wanted to explore. What did she think you would be doing in the meantime? Washing her drawers and cooking her meals. She fafo, you dodged a bullet. Definitely not the idiot. Not the idiot still. She wanted to explore. She didn't expect you to do it at all. She was planning to bang a few guys and then say she wants to close the relationship before you did anything. She didn't expect you to hook up first. But if you had this female friend while dating your ex, she might have also suspected you guys had feelings for one another. So in her mind, she thought of it as cheating since you weren't just sleeping with random women like maybe your ex planned to do. The fact that it was someone she presumably knew, and that she already might have felt that you and your new GF had feelings for one another, that she tried to backpedal. But your ex opened the relationship, so you didn't cheat at all. Not the idiot. I guess your ex thought she would be the only one sleeping with other people. But it did not go according to plan. As soon as someone brings up opening the relationship, it's already over. But here is something to watch out for. Your ex will now try to make you look like the bad guy. Don't let her control the narrative. Talk to your friends, her parents, your parents, and everyone you both know about why you broke up. Don't expect your ex to just accept this. She may try to destroy you if she can't have you. My friends never really liked her, so they didn't believe her anyway, and my current GF is part of my friend group, and my friends have told us that they always knew we'd end up together based on how well we got along and how much we have in common. Did you ever find out if she crashed somewhere other than her friend's house on that first night out? Yeah, from what I've gathered from one of her friends who's cool in Instagram stories, it seems like 2 people in the group got too wasted too fast, and they all had to go to her friend's house to make sure they were good. So she really didn't even get a chance to do the whole open relationship thing. LMAO. Story 2. I started dating my boyfriend Jeff 10 months ago. This relationship has been amazing so far, and I definitely see a future with him. There's just one problem. He has a weird relationship with his ex that's starting to make me really uncomfortable and suspicious. When we started dating, he often talked about his best friend, Jenna, who he also owns a business with. He made it pretty clear that she was an important person to him. I knew they had spent vacations together, and he mentioned hanging out with her parents a few times too. A few weeks after I met him, I creeped through all his pictures on Facebook, because who doesn't do that with someone they just started dating, and saw a bunch of very coupley pictures of him and Jenna. I also found her Instagram and looked through it, and it's filled with pictures of Jeff. A bunch of them had the hashtag relationship goals and other similar things, so in this way I figured out that they had dated. I kept waiting for him to tell me that himself, but he never did. About 2 months after we started dating, I straight up asked him if he had dated her, and he admitted it. He said that they had met in school and had similar ideals and ambitions. They dated for 9 months and broke up a year and a half ago. I asked him why they'd broken up, and he said their relationship was awful, and they worked much better as friends. They started their business after they broke up, and things have apparently been going well between them since then. I started to get kind of suspicious about her, though, when time passed and I still hadn't met her. I met his friends and family pretty soon after we started dating, but I didn't meet Jenna. I went to numerous social events that I'd expect her to be at, but she was never there. There were a number of occasions when our paths almost crossed and I really thought I was going to meet her. Never did. For example, I went to their office a few times to meet Jeff after work, and Jenna was already gone. Or sometimes I'd come to meet him and he'd come outside to meet me so I wouldn't have to go inside. Things started to get really weird about 3 months ago. Jeff and Jenna were having an open house night one evening. Jeff came over to my place after work and we had a few hours to destroy before it was time to go, so we went out for dinner. And then walked to the office. I was kind of expecting that I'd come in and help them set up, but when we were a block away, he started asking me if I had lots of work to do and saying there was a really nice coffee shop nearby. He actually walked me to the coffee shop and sat me down, then left to go get ready with Jenna. He told me to come to the office in an hour and a half, about half an hour before I left for the office. I texted Jeff and said I hoped everything was going well and asked if there was anything I could do. He replied and said, "Some things come up for Jenna and she can't be here tonight." I was getting really suspicious at this point. I went to the office half an hour later and sure enough, Jenna wasn't there. People kept asking about her all night and Jeff told them she'd had a family emergency. When we walked back to the car later that night, he told me what happened. While he and Jenna were getting ready, she had a panic attack and said she was scared to meet me. She said she wouldn't be able to handle it and either had to leave or he had to tell me not to come. He told her to leave, so she did. Since then, a couple more weird things have happened, and I still haven't met Jenna. Once, when I was hanging out with Jeff, we went to the office so he could grab something. When we were almost there, he looked at his phone and said, "Jenna's still there. Let's just go for a walk." So we walked around the block for half an hour and then came back when she was gone. After that happened, I told Jeff I felt really uncomfortable with the situation. They could respect that they were friends who had dated, but the way she was acting about me was very suspicious. He apologized and said he had actually been really mad at her, but wasn't sure what to do. He also told me a couple other weird stories about things she'd done. He went to a party a few weeks ago. I didn't go and his phone had died that night, when he got home and charged his phone. It was full of texts from Jenna saying she was outside in her car and asking if I was there or not. She actually never even ended up going to the party, simply because she didn't know if I was there or not. Now, here's the kicker. Jeff and Jenna are currently on a 2-week-long camping trip. They've been planning this trip since before I met him. But considering the way she's behaved, I feel very uncomfortable about him being on this trip. I just looked at her Instagram and she's posted 5 new pictures of him. As awesome as Jeff is, I'm really fed up with this, and I'm seriously considering breaking things off when he gets back. Am I being unreasonable? TLDR, my boyfriend is best friends, business partners with his ex. She has done a number of weird things to avoid meeting me, and I'm so sick of it that I'm considering breaking up with him. Some comments. You're not being unreasonable at all, and I can understand why you feel so upset about the whole situation. If I were you, I'd be asking Jeff a few questions. Does he know the root issue of why she doesn't want to meet you? Is she like this with anyone else? Explain to him that the situation is upsetting you and that you aren't comfortable with him going on a 2-week vacation with her. She is, after all, his ex-girlfriend, and the whole thing strikes me as a little strange. Maybe you could talk about meeting Jenna with mutual place like a cafe or a restaurant. If Jeff was my boyfriend, I'd be looking for answers. Best of luck to you, and please post an update. It's kind of reassuring to hear that other people don't think I'm being unreasonable. I have actually asked him if he knows why she's being like this, and he says he's asked her the same thing and hasn't gotten a clear answer. He said he's asked her if she still has feelings for him, and she said no. They're actually already on their trip, so there's not much I can do about it at this point. I think I'll try probing him a bit more when he gets back and see if he might know a bit more than he's telling me about her behavior. You're not only not being unreasonable, but you have put up with way more than most other people would have. I would have noped out of there when I found her Instagram and realized he didn't tell you that he had dated her. Not to mention all the crazy over-the-top nonsense she's pulled since. And he is going on a 2-week-long trip with this girl. Oh God, so much nope. Well, I'm glad that at least I'm not the only one who thinks it's weird. I kind of feel like I probably would have called it off already if he wasn't so great in other ways. This is seriously the best relationship I've ever had, but the whole Jenna situation is really over the top. Regarding the camping trip or why wasn't it canceled, I have to work and I was never invited. As far as why it wasn't canceled, good question. I just broke up with my ex last week because of similar behavior. Her ex was super clingy and openly in love with her, and she wanted to stay friends with him. Found out they're going on a vacation together and I straight up wasn't invited. Confronted her about it, and she refused to accept that it was totally effed up behavior. So I dumped her. Confront your boyfriend about this when he gets back. Don't tell him he can't be friends with her. Just tell him how it makes you feel. And if he gets defensive or tries to gaslight you, dump his sass. Don't let your so treat you like crap because they're overly protective of an ex. This girl is very clearly still obsessed with your boyfriend and her intentions cannot be platonic. Maybe your boyfriend is just a dumb idiot and needs to open his eyes. Or maybe you're just second fiddle in his life. Wow, that sounds kind of creepily similar to my situation. I'm sorry to hear about your ex. Sounds like you're better off without her. I have decided to confront him when he gets back. I really need to tell him how all of this makes me feel. I've told him it makes me uncomfortable before, but I guess I haven't said exactly how uncomfortable it makes me. And I'm starting to feel like this camping trip is just unacceptable. Partially thanks to all the people that have commented here. And I shouldn't have to put up with stuff like this. Update, I wrote my previous post over a year ago, and a lot has happened since then. I wanted to give everyone an update, since the advice on this sub was really helpful at the time. For a few months after I wrote my op, nothing much happened. Jeff and I continued dating, and he continued being friends, partners with Jenna. I never met her. But everything else in our relationship seemed to be going so well that I decided I'd try to deal with it. Things got really hard, however, when I had to take a work contract 12 hours away from home for 3 months. I hardly saw Jeff the whole time, and I looked at Jenna's Instagram almost every day to see if she'd posted more photos of them together. More often than not, she had. Since I wasn't physically present, I felt like Jenna was his real girlfriend. I felt completely worthless and constantly stressed out, knowing my boyfriend was spending all his time with another woman who I already had suspicions about. While I was away for work, I decided to break up with Jeff. I broke up with as soon as I came back, and I made it very clear that his relationship with Jenna was intolerable for me. I told him he was going to have a hard time dating anyone who wasn't her, as long as she was still in his life. He kept saying he didn't understand why it was such a problem. He told me he couldn't control her behavior, but he promised me he hadn't cheated on me. I explained to him that by allowing their friendship to continue, he was condoning her behavior. I told him I didn't really even care if he'd physically cheated or not, since he'd already shown disrespect for me and our relationship. I didn't speak to him for a few months and I went on with my life. I took another contract out of town and even considered moving permanently to another city. One night, though, Jeff called me and apologized. He said he had been thinking about our relationship a lot and realized he had been in the wrong. He said his relationship with Jenna was beginning to feel toxic to him, and he'd made arrangements to dissolve their business partnership. After that, I decided to meet up with him. Not necessarily give him another chance and discuss the situation further. When we met up, he promised to stop talking to Jenna and unfollowed her on all social media. As of now, he has not spoken to her in 6 months and we've gotten back together. We actually ran into her at a concert a few weeks ago and they didn't even say hi to each other. I feel much more respected and confident in my relationship now. TLDR, I broke up with my boyfriend. He ended his partnership with his ex, and we have gotten back together. Story 3. Just to be clear, I'm not whipping ham hocks at him. My 14-month-old son thinks it's funny to throw food from his high chair. So funny that he'll forget to eat it. He's got a pretty good arm too, for a baby. About a week ago he was eating blueberries and cut up pieces of strawberry and watermelon, and he kept throwing them at me. Finally I got fed up and tossed a blueberry back at him. It bounced off his chest. He looked down at it, then back up at me, and broke into the hardest laugh I've ever heard come out of him. I threw a few more pieces of fruit, and he was cracking up. But then he reached into his high chair and ate a whole handful of it. Normally he would just eat one bite at a time. This went on until he had eaten everything that didn't fall on the floor. We've been keeping this up for the past week. Sometimes I try to throw the food right into his mouth, but so far I have missed every time. I'll be honest though, I'm a little worried about tomorrow, because it's spaghetti night. Edit, wow, I'm surprised this got so much attention. I'm tossing breakfast at him now, eggs, fruit, and toast, but I will post an update after spaghetti time. I don't feel comfortable putting a picture of him on the internet, so you'll just have to use your imaginations. Edit 2, some people are worried he might choke if I throw food in his mouth. I'm a really bad shot, lol, but I also had to learn baby Heimlich and CPR because his older sister has such a sensitive gag reflex and choked on food constantly. Like, her gag reflex is so bad she has to have a warning on her chart when she goes to the dentist because she will throw up or gag if you touch the back of her mouth. When he started eating solid food, I didn't want to take any chances, so I also bought a thing called a life vac that apparently sucks objects out of a baby's throat if they're choking. I've never had to use it, but it's right next to his high chair just in case. I appreciate all the concern for my baby though, thank you for looking out for him. Update. Well, spaghetti night was a success, as long as you define success as he ate the food. I was surprised that he immediately started eating it without having to play our little game first. I made him a plate with a couple little twirls of pasta and he started grabbing fistfuls and chowing down right away. He's half Italian, so I guess it's in his blood. After a few good handfuls, though, he was ready to play and started whipping noodles at me and my daughter. Because he's an uncoordinated baby, though, he ended up flipping them back onto his own head, which cracked up his sister, and when she laughs, he laughs. To be honest, I didn't end up throwing too much food at him tonight, mostly because he was doing my job for me, but also because I just got caught up in watching my kids play together. He still got ridiculously messy, though. Afterwards, I put him right in the tub, but he was like an Italian bath bomb. The water was orange and had all the little flakes of herbs and Parmesan cheese, so I had to drain it and start again. While I gave him a bath, my husband started the task of cleaning up the high chair. And its surroundings, he shouted, "How did he get spaghetti in the lights?" It appears like the light fixture over our table contained noodles. I can't recall the name of it. Some were on the infant, some on the wall, but most were just on the floor. Overall, though, it was well worth the effort. Update: hello, this is Op. I was unaware that this had been posted. I'm happy that a lot of people appeared to enjoy it. As an update, my son no longer uses a high chair and is acting wild. Even though he is a human garbage disposal, he still gets pleasure from tossing food. We would much appreciate it if everyone could offer us positive vibes, prayers, and thoughts as Hurricane Milton is ready to hit. I appreciate you staying until the very end. We would greatly appreciate it if you could like, share, and subscribe to our videos. I hope you have an amazing day.